Hello there, my name is Jeanne Sparrow, and I have spent over 30 years, in radio and television. And in my latest adventure, I am speaking, consulting, and sharing what I've learned along the way about success and life. I believe that the source of our greatest successes come from the value that we bring to others when we are able to express our truest, most authentic selves. It's something I call fearless authenticity. Now, I started this podcast so I could have conversation with people from all walks of life about what fearless authenticity really looks and feels like. What happens when we find and follow our passions, and how the highest expressions of who we really are actually serves others the best. We're going to talk about it all, the ups and the downs, the fears and the triumphs, the goals and the dreams, the distractions and the doubts, the failures too, and everything in between. And I hope it gets deep, because that's where the good stuff really lives. But it's also about fun, because if it ain't fun, it ain't worth doing. And it's also about ways, how we find the ways to push through, move forward, and make our dreams come true so that we can engage with the world in the way that we were created to. So, are you ready to live life as big as you dare and be brave, be free, and be you? Well, let's learn how to do it together. Welcome to Fearless Authenticity with Jeanne Sparrow. My next guest is a Chicago girl through and through. She grew up in the city. She works as an editor in Chicago and writes a mystery series that is set in the Windy City with a female main character, yay us, who's a former homicide cop with the Chicago Police Department. Tracy Clark's first Cass Raines novel, Broken Places, won the prestigious Sue Grafton Memorial Award at the Edgars, which is the Oscars of mystery writing. She also garnered a slew of other nominations for top awards in her field, along with being named to several best crime books lists. Her fourth in the series, Runner, came out this year and to rave reviews, and she is currently working on a standalone thriller. Please welcome to Fearless Authenticity the amazingly talented and award-winning novelist, Tracy Clark. Let me bring you in. There we go. Hello.
Hello.
I need to mute all this stuff. Girl, I got stuff going off. I thought I had the focus on. Hold on. There we go. It is so good to meet you. I can't believe we have both been in Chicago all this time and have never run into each other.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here. I'm glad I'm here. I'm anxious to talk to you.
I am anxious.
Quite a fan.
Thank you. And I'm a fan of yours. I mean, look, and when I found out what your process is and how you've gotten to where you are, I'm even more astounded. So let's start off with how you started writing, because you started writing when you were young. Yeah. And you were writing for 30 years before you even got officially published with your first book. So what about that progression and that timeline ended up being right for you? And what kept you motivated and kept you at it along the way?
I think what kept me going was the fact that I'm just so darn pigheaded. I mean, when I sort of decided that this was what I wanted to do, and that books didn't just sort of pop out of the cornfield, somebody actually had to sit down and write this thing, and it came out of their imagination. That's all I wanted to do. When I found out that books didn't just pop out, that somebody had to actually do it, that's my job. That's what I wanted to do. So then it became a series or years, decades of sort of trying to teach myself how to do that. And I just sort of kept with it because that's who I am. That's what I do. I was not going to sort of stop until I actually figured out a way to do it. It took that long. It took 30 years. I was a little weird kid with a notebook under her mattress. That was me. I was the teenager who had book in her pocket everywhere she went. That was me. So when I figured out that I wanted to write mysteries. I wanted to write mysteries with me in them. Agatha Christie was fine. Sue Grafton was great. One of my sort of early idols. But there weren't a lot of African-American women in them. So when I decided that I was going to write mysteries, I was going to write PI mysteries, I was going to sort of get in this genre, both feet jumping in, I already knew that I was going to be writing about an African-American female. And then whatever else came after that, I would have to learn. So I had this character and then plot and all the rest of the craft stuff I had to sort of teach myself. And it was decades. It was 20 some odd years before I got from wanting to write, sort of trying to teach myself to write, to somebody actually wanting something that I written. So it was quite a process.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you stuck with it because otherwise we wouldn't have it. And there's so few Black women in any sort of publishing. Like, one of my favorite genres is science fiction. And, so people like Octavia Butler really mean something to me. But I have to imagine that that path has not been easy in the publishing world too, and in convincing people that there's something for that we want to see and that other people will want to see us doing it. What do you think it is about you in particular? You said pig-headed. I can think of a few other words that stubborn, but what other things do you think helped you through that second part of the process, that convincing people that this was a valid expression of art and something that people would be interested in, because it is an art that is a commerce as well?
Well, you sort of go through those years where you're not quite sure how to do it. You can do everything you can do on your end, write the story, build characters, but there's no guarantee that that's going to translate into a book deal or somebody's going to want it. I said in a writer's conference once early on, and of course you're always looking for that advice, that piece of information that's going to sort of propel you to the next level. And one of the moderators said, well, the best way to get published is to write a good story. Now, at the time, it seemed like a cop-out to me. What does that mean? Write a good story. If I knew how to write a good story, it wouldn't be, but I sort of remembered that. And so I sort of dove really hard into craft. The way to write a good story is to sort of figure out what a good story is. And I took every writing class I could take. I went to every mystery conference I could go to. Every bit of advice somebody had to give me, I took it and held it. Anything that I could sort of glom onto to sort of get me to that next level. And then even with that, it's just luck, really. It's luck. I mean, when you think about that, 95% of the books out there are written by white writers. 95% in an industry that is this wide. That means 5% of us are writers of color. We are coming up against white editors, white agents, white publishing houses, owners. So we've got this hurdle to sort of jump. We can write the best story we can write, and we still have to come up against those numbers. So write the best book you can write, learn all you can learn about the craft of writing, sort of engross yourself in the genre that you're interested in writing, which I did. Read everything from Sam Spade to Agatha Christie. I mean, all of it. I had to sort of put it in my head so that I knew what was out there, knew what I had to sort of come up to, and then put my little stink on it. I love it. They were not looking for Cass Raines anywhere. I mean, I went 20 some odd years, nobody would took it. Rejection after rejection. And then, of course, that's where the pig-headedness comes in. It then sort of came sort of a Game of Thrones kind of a thing. They wanted to kill me, okay? They were trying to make me stop. And there was no way in heck I was gonna. So I took the rejection letters. They come in. I put them on, pile them up. And by the time I got my book deal, after 20 some odd years, I had a stack maybe about that high of rejection letters. I mean, oh, wonderful. We love your story, but not for us, blah, blah, blah. I mean, year after year after year of that. And you just really have to sort of keep yourself motivated. And I like the fact that I was one of those sort of wobbly things that you sort of couldn't knock down. They would send me a rejection letter, pile it up, and then I'd start again. So persistence, yes. Pig-headedness helps. But after all of that, even after you've learned everything you think you need to learn, there's that luck thing, that luck factor. So I could still be out there piling up rejection letters. I just happened to find the editor and the agent that saw something in my work, the same thing that I saw. So you have to sort of just find your person.
Wow. There's so much in there to unpack for anybody who's doing something difficult. And yes, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Right.
All of us of a certain age will remember that because I wanted a weeble that wobbled so bad, but I never realized how much it would be important to the path, because I think so many of us face rejection and accept it. and take it in.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we keep trying, even if we're stubborn or pig-headed, as you put it, even if we're persistent, there is that little piece of us that wonders if that rejection is right.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle that piece of it? Or was your persistence and stubbornness, the way that was set up, did it just never get in?
I did get in. I gotten to the point where I had been doing it for years. Nobody wanted it. Finally got an agent who took it. Then another year or two, and then he dropped it because he couldn't sell it. I put the book away, that manuscript, in a drawer for 2 years. I didn't touch it. I can't say I didn't think about it, but I put it away. I sort of had the decision, this is not for me. I'm not going to make it. It's too hard. But there was something in here, a little fire right at the heart of me that said, no, I know I can do this. I know I have something, so I just sort of reluctantly, slowly opened the drawer.
It was calling to you.
It was calling to me, but it was so hard because I knew I would have to start over again and the rejections would come and then it would be whatever. So when I opened it, I dusted it off and I started again. I took classes and workshops again. I tore up pages and rearranged things again. The book at that point was a little different from it was to begin with because I still took the advice. Whatever piece of advice I could get, I took it. I might not have agreed with it at some level, but these were professionals. These were people who knew the business, the industry, what they constituted as a good book. So I took the advice. Where I could sort of use it, I took it. When I disagreed with it and figured they were all wrong, I dismissed it. And I kept going. So another few years went by. I mean, it really took a long time. I mean, some people are overnight successes. They send their manuscript out. 6 months later, they come back with a contract. Wonderful. Okay. That didn't happen for me. It took almost from the second year of college to maybe about 2018, 17, to actually be at that point where I wanted to be. And if I had quit halfway through, I wouldn't be here. I mean, the thing would still be in a drawer, followed by the other 3 novels that sort of followed. Because as I got rejected, I just kept writing. So the book, they didn't want the first book. I don't care. I'm going to start the second one. They don't want the second one. I'll do a third. So by the time that book deal came in, I had 3 finished manuscripts. They took the first one just because that's the one that I presented to them. I said, well, if you like that one, I've got 2 more in a drawer that look just like that. And so they said, well, we'll take all 3. So then it became a matter of revising it and putting the other 2 in shape as I was shaping up the first one.
Wow. And go ahead.
And but if I had given up, I'd just be sitting here.
But then when you think about it, you won the Sue Grafton Memorial Award right out of the box. And she is an icon in the mystery world. You have said you looked up to her. What, especially after that struggle you just described, which seems so arduous, what did that mean to you when you got that award? What was the feeling behind it? And then what did it mean for your career after that?
I still can't believe I got it. I can't underestimate how big of a thing Sue Grafton was, especially because she wrote PI fiction. I wanted to write PI fiction. She had a strong female character. I wanted one too, only African-American like me. So I studied Grafton. I studied them all. Hammett. I studied Chandler. I studied everything in that PI genre. Sarah Paretsky's V.I. Warshawski, that was a big one too. And in the early 90s, when I sort of really started thinking about putting my mark on it, I had wonderfully talented African-American writers, female writers coming into the thing. So I think female PI started maybe 82, 83. We didn't get around to us until about 90, 91. But then we had Valerie Wilson Wellesley, Eleanor Taylor Bland, all of these wonderful full characters that I could sort of look at and sort of try to emulate. So I had that going for me. It wasn't like I had to sort of, pick it out of rock on my own. I didn't open the door. The door was already open. I just sort of kept my foot in there long enough for me to sort of squeeze through and then hold it up for the next person coming. So that became a thing. And how do I kept motivated? It's just something that I wanted. I knew that this was for me. I knew that since I was maybe 8 or 9 that I wanted to be a writer. It wasn't until maybe 14 or 15 that I wanted to write mysteries. And then when this great wave of female crime writers came in, that was what I wanted to do. But I wanted to make it for me. I didn't want my character to be the sassy sidekick. I didn't want her to be the gum chewing, head shaking kind of a afterthought. I wanted my female African American character to be the main show. She's in there solving the crime. She's taking the risks. She's straightening it all out for her clients, or as it turns out to be. And it's now a sort of a thing of me sort of trying to perfect whatever it is that I've learned. So I'm trying to get better every single day. And I hope to have, fingers crossed, a pretty long career. I don't see any reason why I should stop. I mean, I got here now. It took me this long to get here.
Right.
You tell me to leave, and I'm not going. So that's where we are.
Listen, I feel bad for anybody who tries to tell you anything, Tracy.
I wish I could be nice about it. I cannot. All right. I hate people telling me what I can't do. And I knew that I had something. I knew I was a pretty good writer, not the best writer, but that comes with time. I think you get better as you do it. But I was not going to let some editor and some agent sitting in some ivory tower somewhere tell me that what I had was not legitimate or not good enough or not as good as the things that are out there. So I just kept going.
And do you think in any way that your work as an editor and your time being, as a reporter as well, or doing, working in the newspaper business, do you think there are any qualities from that world that helped you in the world that you really wanted to be in? Because I would imagine it's hard balancing the need to, which all of us do. I used to call it, when I first started in radio, I literally had like 3 or 4 jobs. I was working 7 days a week. And I said that all the other work I did was to support my habit, and my habit being radio. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done and had the career that I had. But there is a weird moment when you're like, God, I hate having to do this because I really should be doing that. How do you, what is it, especially for the length of time in the career, and you've had a great career, you've worked at a great newspaper and done other things, but what is it about that work that feeds the work that you have now? And what it, and the qualities that come from that work that feed your work now, and then how have you balanced it not sucking the life out of you?
Oh, geez, that's sucking the life. Huh? Okay.
Sis, I mean, if we're going to be real with people, because day jobs but you need them, right? If you got all these side hustles, sometimes the day job feeds the side hustle, right?
Yeah, but you know what I did is sort of incorporate both of them. I had my day job. It was pretty stressful, tense, kind of a thing to do, but I would take my time. So my lunch hour was my writing hour. Every day, I work out whatever problems I had for the morning. 12:30, 1 o'clock, my lunch hour hit. I would take my little laptop with its little bag and my little cup, and I would go to an empty room and I would write for an hour. And that's what I did for the entire time. Half the people I worked with didn't even know what I was doing in that little room all by myself with my little lunch in a plastic thing and my laptop. And I didn't even tell them after I got my book deal. I got my book deal sitting at my desk, editing a comic strip. And I got a little email ping on my little thing. And it was an agent saying, I would like to represent you if you are willing. Now, anybody else who hadn't been doing this for 20 some odd years would, oh, that's nice. And I had to get up off of my desk, go to the bathroom, little silent scream. And then I went back and said, yes, I would very much like you. I had to take that moment because it had been such an arduous thing, such a long time. But I did it simultaneously. So work a little, do my writing when I could get it in, work a little more, go home, maybe get another 1 or 2 hours in. And I did that for years, teaching myself how to do this thing. And I think as an editor, it sort of gave me a sort of a foundation of perfectionism. Not perfectionism in having everything be just so and, with that, but knowing the craft, the work ethic, knowing that every word that I put down there should not be precious. I should have the ability to sort of cut it out, rearrange it, put it in the form that it needed to be. I think those were the sort of standards that sort of helped me along. I knew that if I had gotten a piece of advice that said, blah, 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 it's not right, maybe you consider, and I had the sort of ability inside of my head as an editor, as a pig-headed person, to say, they're probably right. Let me read it over, see what it says. They're right. It's gone. Some writers can't do that. They sort of get infatuated with their work. Every little thing, every little comma, every little semicolon is where they want it to be. I don't have that luxury as an editor, as a writer, as anybody. I mean, just if it has to go, it has to go. I will kill a darling in a minute. It makes no difference to me if it makes for a better story, a better character development, a better plot arc. So I'm all about the story, all about the characters, all about the pacing and all those craft elements that I've sort of taught myself over the years. And that's what I've learned from being an editor, being a sort of observer, objective kind of a person, looking at a piece of work and saying, maybe that's not quite right. Maybe I have to fix it here. And I can do that with other people's work. I can do it with my own. And I'm grateful for it.
That is a gift, because it is so difficult not to get attached to the things that you work so hard for. And, maybe those day jobs that we suffer through can actually be gifts for us. Your discipline is something that astounds me. I read somewhere that you wake up at like 5:30 every day and write before you do anything else.
Yep.
What is it that you think discipline has taught you about being successful?
Well, you've got to put in the work. The successful people are hardworking people, mostly. They're some of those people who, Lord knows, I mean, how they...
How did they get there? That's what you want to say. Tracy,
yeah, but I'm trying to find a nice... You have no idea how they got there. But most of the time, you get success by hard work and persistence and sort of putting in the time. I don't know any other way to sort of get from A to B without going through all the other little ups and downs and hurdles and conflicts and everything that you have to go through. You have to sort of learn the craft of writing to be a writer, I think. You might get lucky and come up with something, or some people have, but you have to know what you're working for and what you're working on. And for me, that meant me taking every freaking writing class that I could find, going to every conference I could sort of pony up the money for to go to. It just sort of meant sort of diving in and learning everything I could learn. Information is power. In almost any instance, the more you know, the better you are. The better you are, the better you are, more able to sort of see that success coming and be ready for it when it gets there. So, it's been a long, winding road. I won't start singing, but basically that's what it is. And you have to be there when your shot comes in. If I had stopped halfway through, my shot would have come, somebody else would have gotten it, and I would still be in the same place I was. So you have to sort of be there when your chance comes up.
Yes, and be prepared for it. My mother used to say, and I've probably said this in other podcasts at this point, and probably on the radio 50 million times and on television, but you know what? You don't have to get ready when you stay ready.
Exactly.
My mama said that all the time, because I would be, lollygagging, Jeanne. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. But when it comes to our careers, I don't know if we think about it always in that way, because especially when we're waiting for the thing that we know is for us. Let's talk about advice, because of course you've gotten advice and feedback on your writing, and some of that is super specific to what it is you're writing. But when it comes to your overall career arc and things like that, you've talked about how some of your mentors in the writing world, the African-American women who've come before you and who have created things. I believe Eleanor Taylor Bland was one of them. What did they say to you that instilled something in you that made you want to push forward or maybe picked you up at a time when you were low, or inspired you to talk to people who are coming behind you?
Yeah, Eleanor Taylor Bland was a mentor of mine, and it sort of came about as sort of an accident. I met her at a conference, just one of those conferences that I went to starting in high school. And I was sort of a shy person, so I'm sitting, of course, way in the back and last seat in the row and closer to the door so I can get out in a hurry. And she sort of spotted me and said, well, because there weren't that many of us. I mean, her
and we
me,
know we're like this.
Exactly. So I did
Hey,
that
girl.
thing. She did that thing, and we sort of got together. And then, of course, she wanted to know why I was there, what I wanted out of this conference. And I told her, well, these are my pages. They stink, but I'm not sure what's wrong with them. And she said, let me look at them. And she read them, and I sort of sat there and sweated. And then she sort of said, this is good. And I said, what? She said, this is good. And she said, well, let me see what else you have. Email them to me, and then I'll call and let you know what I. Now, she didn't have to do that. I mean, she's a writer. I mean, she's got books on the shelves. I'm some little kid, drove myself up to Lord knows where, out in the suburbs somewhere to this conference. Me and her and one other person were the only ones of us there. But she did that. And I quickly learned that she did that with a lot of people. Next year, it was more of us, one other person. Now it's 4. We're really gaining on these people. And so 4 of us there, and we followed her around. She called us her chickens, and she would sort of tell us which sessions to go to. This is on character development. You need to know that. And we would shuffle off and go to that thing and meet up again. And this one over here is about pacing. You might want to check that one out. So, and we did that for years. And we sort of forged this sort of relationship where I would get stuck, and I got stuck often. I would email her and say, help. And she would say, well, what's the problem? And I would tell her what the problem was. And she said, well, this is what you might want to sort of do with it. And then let me see it when you're done. That helped immensely. Because when you're sort of sitting in a dark room, just you and your laptop, and not sure what you're doing, and there's that sort of lifeline out there who was there waiting to help you and to sort of see you through the next spot, to tell you, to keep you out of that sort of box that you sort of gotten yourself in, and sort of show you the light. That was immensely helpful. And she did that for years with me, and I'm sure with a lot of other writers of color. And that was a great benefit for me, a great honor to sort of have that in my sort of history. And I thank her every day since then. And I cannot sort of make up for that. What I do, however, is to sort of pay it forward. So I am doing the same thing for writers who are coming up after me. I sort of, when I got my deal, I sort of held the sort of memberships of Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers as out there as sort of a benefit. So when I get published, I'm going to join those 2 things. And I got my contract, and I joined the same day, both Miss Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. Crime Writers of Color, now I'm a member of that as well. I'm on the national board of Baal-Shakan, which is one of our great world mystery conferences. So I jumped in with both feet. And my job, in addition to writing and getting these books out, is also to help bring the next generation of writers up. So I offer advice like others have offered advice to me. And that's sort of one of the great things about this, is to being able to give back what was given to me. When I sort of got to that low point, and there were several of them along those years, there was always seemed to be somebody there to give me one piece of advice that got me to the next step. I got stuck. There was always somebody seemed to be somebody there to give me another sort of boost. And so I kind of want to do that to other people too.
Girl, you got me over here about to cry, because what I see in that is all of our paths, especially as Black women, because we don't ever get anywhere by ourselves.
Oh, no.
We get to where we are because there's so many people lifting us up and pushing us forward and seeing something in us that perhaps we can't see ourselves, that gets us out of that dark box that you talked about, because there's so many different ways that we all put ourselves in that box, right? Yeah. But the thing that stands out to me, because so many of us as Black women have been the only. or one of the few where you can count on one hand the number of people in a room. And, there's so many people that get imposter syndrome from that. Like, because when you show up and you don't see anybody else like you. And then when people ask you things, another woman I spoke with said, a white man asked her in a class, what are you even here for? Kind of thing. And that sort of thing. How does that phenomenon affect your ability to do what you do, or does it give you more fuel to the fire to fight?
Fuel, again, pig-headed.
That part.
So one of the early rejections that I got, and they actually sort of give you little snippets of information. I'm rejecting it because this character is not Black enough. Now, I don't know about you, but when
what's Black enough?
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay, that's what I said. What does Black enough mean? I knew what it meant to them, because again, 95% of published books are published by writers who are white, not writers of color. So they're looking at, I guess, the sassy sidekick, Angela Davis, Big Fro, militant. I think that's what they meant. Of course, you're not
different stereotypes.
Of course, you're not allowed to ask, because sort of approaching these publishing houses is sort of like offering a sort of a basket of tribute to a tiki god. You sort of have to go up the steps,
manuscript back down,
right, and then have to wait for the benevolence to sort of follow you. So you're not allowed to ask what Black enough means, but that's one of the criticisms that I got for being rejected. It's not Black enough. One person said, well, Chicago's already got a female private investigator. That's Sarah Paretsky's V.I. Wachowski. We don't need another one. That's gone. Okay.
She lives on a different part of town.
Totally. Totally different kind of character.
She experiences our city much differently as well. I'm just going to say, I've sampled a little Miss VI, and that, even though I've been to those places.
Different perspective, right? Another said, what was it? We just signed a Black writer a month ago. We don't need more than one. Okay, so these are the kinds of.
What year was that? I'm so sorry. Well, I need to know. know.
Let me think, because it's early on when I was still querying and getting rejected routinely. I would say maybe 1990-ish, 91, 92. But I just kept going. So
I wish this was a beverage of an adult variety right now, because that pisses me straight off.
You know what? But that's what we writers of color have to deal with. Again, think of this: 95 versus 5. The industry works for the whole, not for the fringe people that they don't seem to know what to do with. So we sort of are off to the side. We have to be a certain kind of Black. It has to say a certain kind of, we don't all write about the impoverished childhoods and, the 60s movement and all that. We can write mysteries. We can write cozies and PI novels, and that have nothing to do with historical, whatever. A PI is a PI, whether that PI is white or Black or brown or whatever. It's a genre sort of a thing. It's mystery.
And it's interesting because even Black directors now, so I find that some of them feel like they have to apologize when they're not doing a statement movie for the culture, like, and get criticized when they're doing something more lighthearted, or doing something that is different. And I've seen a lot of discussion about that in a lot of art circle, different kinds of art, whether it's movies, but when you talk about art forms that are consumed by the masses, I think they get a lot of attention. And it is interesting how we talk about now, like when you say there's a Black first, right? And in the 2020s, that we still are talking about there being the first Black anything. You're like, why is that a thing? Or the first Latin? Any kind of culture. It's like you feel like you're boxed in. What is that feeling like when you bust out of that box? What has it been for you? Because you have. just by the fact that you got published, much less the fact that you also won an award for that thing that people said was not black enough. It is not black enough, Tracy.
You know what? It's kind of like spiking the ball in football. You can sort of go through that goal post and you sort of spike the ball and do that little dance. That's what it's like. All these people, all these rejections telling you it's not black enough, blah, blah, blah. We already have one, blah, blah. And then sort of, it's like getting it through a sort of a needle, eye of a needle. You get through there, you're on the other side, all's good. You got to kind of, bam, spike the ball. But it doesn't end there. You still have to produce, right? You still have to write the next book. You still have to, it's not really making this grand statement about anything, but your characters do make that statement just by being who they are. This PI novel series is not high on politics or anything like that, but just because she is an African-American woman sort of making her way in this field, that's a statement. She is not she doesn't go out there and say, hi, I'm going to be black today. She's just who she is, fighting for her clients, figuring out what these cases are, getting to the end and getting a resolution. And by the way, this is how she sort of gets through life. This is what she's thinking about. This is what's important to her. This is the city that she wants to make a difference in. So you sort of get those things in sort of subtly. And as far as I'm concerned, she's more than black enough.
Absolutely. I mean, in any expression of who we are is exactly who it needs to be. And that's kind of what fearless authenticity is about for me, is that we all exist within this range of within this range of what other people think we are expected to be. And we decide to reject their expectations and do us. So for you personally, what do you think the biggest rejection of expectations is, and the biggest alignment with who you are? Like, was there ever a moment where you felt like you had to choose to be Tracy Clark, where there was somebody else who thought Tracy Clark should be this, or that your creation should look like this? Are there other moments where that happened for you personally, the way that you defended your characters and their right to exist? Was there a moment for that for you, or is defending those characters defending yourself?
There probably was. I just didn't pay attention to it. These were my characters. I was standing up for them. This is how they act. This is where they come from. This is who they are. And that's what we're going to do. Now, if you could give me a craft note, maybe something isn't right there, or can move a little faster there. But these characters are authentically themselves. I think that's the success of this series. These characters are not stereotypes. These are people that we are familiar with, us, especially on the south side of Chicago, where I am and where they sort of live. And I sort of create or highlight the issues that we sort of deal with. And these characters are authentically sort of dialed into that. So luckily, I don't think I've gotten criticism where they wanted me to sort of change her from this to this, because that probably would not have gone well.
For them.
I'm just thinking how I sort of approach it. I would probably sort of fight to sort of keep it the way it is. If there became an issue of, we made her to be maybe something less than that, a little bit more than that, more like this character as opposed to this, then that's a discussion. But I probably would not have, gone in for that. I mean, I'm just thinking about who I am as a person, pig-headed and all, and I don't think that would have been a good discussion to have. But yeah.
Interesting. I love the idea that even fictional characters have fearless authenticity, that and now I'm starting to think about all the characters I like in the books that I read. I'm thinking about like Octavia Butler and, and the Pattern Master and that sort of thing. I'm also thinking about other Black writers as well, like, and the choices that all of them must have had to make along the way to create those people as they were, flaws and all, and let them all show and let their lives be the testament to it. And I always wonder what the connection is between their reality and the reality of their authors. And now I get it. I think that you've shown a little light in that, even because it's really not about you being the character. It's about the qualities in you, right?
Right. And sometimes the characters sort of speak to us. So they tell us who they are. Cass Raines sort of came into my head during those early years, and she just wouldn't go away. And she was distinctly herself. I could not have sort of put her into a cookie cutter sort of a form because she wouldn't have gone. She's just who she is. She becomes more of who she is as the books sort of progress. And she's got a voice that's different than Kinsey Milhone or V.I. Wachowski or any of the others. Even Tamara Hale, Valerie Wilson Wesley's wonderful African-American character. She's different. She's the same, but she's herself. And so I have to sort of follow along after her, and hopefully she puts me in a good spot and not in a painting myself into a corner kind of a way, but she sort of leads me along as she goes. And I'm there for it to sort of take it down on my little laptop in my little room, and hopefully we'll be successful together.
Oh, I love this so much. Well, I will end with you with the question I ask everyone. And you know what, given how much Cass leads you, I'll let you answer it either as Tracy or as Cass.
Okay.
When do you feel that you are at your best, truest, most authentic expression of yourself?
I'll answer as myself. I think I'm most authentic when I'm sitting in front of my laptop with a story to unfold. I was born a writer, I think. I have sort of made myself a writer as the years have gone by, and now I can think of nothing else that I would rather be. And so I am most authentic and most myself when I'm in front of a laptop or a blank piece of paper, and I have a character and a story and a story to tell. So that's me. I am a writer.
I couldn't think of a better way to end this than that answer. The fact that what you do is who you are, and who you are is what you do.
Yep.
Is beautiful. And I think if more of us understood our mission and our calling, we would probably be a lot happier. I'm so glad you stuck with it, Tracy.
I kind of am too. I can't imagine what I would be doing if I hadn't. But I'm in a good spot. I'm where I wanted to be.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks so much.
I love it when people make me think, and Tracy Clark is no exception. Here are a few things that I really thought about that are going to make me move a little bit differently when it comes to what Tracy said. So I love her, what she called her pig-headedness, because I think that takes it beyond a step of being stubborn. The fact that she hated people telling her what she couldn't do. And, you know, that's true because only we know what we can do and we set the limits, but so often we give that power away to other people. The other thing I love, because this is something I struggle with, is finding success through being disciplined by doing the hard work, being persistent, and putting in the time. We are always paying dues. And I think some of us struggle with that sometimes. And it's hard to do the same thing consistently over and over again to get better and better results. But that stick-to-itiveness really works. And then paying it forward, the fact that she gives to others what she has gotten and received, I think is so beautiful. One of the things that really struck me and blew my mind was that Tracy's fearless authenticity is also something she gives to her characters. Her characters have the same power to be who they are, to be themselves. And that's what she attributes the success of her novels to. I mean, when you think about it, that is super powerful, that even in fiction, it is fearless authenticity that wins. It always wins. It's got to be real for it to win. So thank you, Tracy Clark. We appreciate you for sharing and for being our guest today. I admire your discipline and your direct honesty, and really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you to my Fearless Authenticity production team for making this pod happen. And thanks to you, our listeners, for your support. Please follow me at JM Sparrow on our social handles. And if you like what you hear on the pod, please let us know. Rate, review, and follow us on the iHeart app, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and share with your community. Send us your comments and your questions. And we want to know what guests you want to hear from about their fearless authenticity, because we can learn from anybody. And I don't know everybody, but I will get to know them. And also tell us how you are being your best, truest, most authentic self. Thank you so much. I'm Jeanne Sparrow for the Fearless Authenticity Podcast. We'll see you again soon.